all these opportunities that trigger us they're actually gifts from the universe saying, you really truly want to be happy, let go of what's stopping you being happy right now.
I love that.
So it's really, I know you get it. Otherwise we wouldn't have been talking this long.
That's true.
It's not some future destination.
Yeah, when I buy this.
When I change my work from doing less of this to doing more of that.
Yeah.
We think that.
Yeah. And all those things are nice.
They're nice. When you work towards it, it sort of happens. It's cool for a while and you think, wow, this is the answer, until about 6 months later.
Hey, Melissa here from Connected with Melissa J. Scott. Welcome back. You might recognise the guy next to me, which is Phil Lee, who is a master sales trainer. And we spoke to him a little while ago about how to do sales right, how to feel good about the whole sales process. But what you probably don't know about Phil is that he's actually a bit of a guru.
Oh, no.
But no, you're 65 years old.
Yes.
And you have been very much in corporate. You've dealt with a lot of business people.
Yep.
But you have also done a lot of personal development work.
Yes.
And really come to a really good place within yourself,
Yes.
and a real comfortable place
Yes.
with self.
Yes.
And that's stuff that a lot of people don't really talk about. And, we've had some beautiful conversations, and I thought, how cool would that be to talk on this podcast, from a business person who deals with business owners all the time and runs your own successful business, to have a bit more of a conversation around real stuff,
I'm happy to have
around human beings.
Yeah. It's a bit out of left field because this stuff, is not spoken about mostly, particularly in relation to business.
100%. And people are burnt out, stressed out, living these pretend lives in massive debt.
Yes.
This is a bad case scenario, or they could be very successful with the things that they own and their wealth, and they're actually not happy and fulfilled.
Yeah, well, I like to say successful, quote unquote, because what does successful really mean? What we're really talking about is where we live in an achievement-oriented society, and you think who has the most toys wins, and and you're going to live happily ever after. Well, it's not the case.
No, that's right. That's right. So I guess if you can sort of maybe tell us a bit about how you came to this journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been on a personal growth journey since I had some very difficult circumstances growing up, and from about my mid-20s, I started a personal growth journey. It was the typical one. Most people just try to get better so they can have more stuff and be more successful, and I managed to thankfully do that to a degree. I'm very happy with my life. I pretty much got everything that I thought would have made me happy to have, and I'm very, very grateful of it. But I got to a point in my life, it was probably, throughout my life, I'd realised, there were ups and downs, even though you do, success. Life is sort of, you're always throwing stuff at you, and no matter what you do, how much money you make, whatever, it's all very tenuous. We're only here for a very short time, and you can try and control everything, but the bottom line is you can't.
That's right.
And the bottom line is you can't. And
as much as you might try.
Nowhere near what. And so that's the problem. We're all trying to.
Yeah.
And, even when you get quote unquote successful, it means by Western society's terms, you have everything that you're supposed to want to have. Then why are people still committing, unfortunately taking their own life and doing drugs and, alcohol and food and sex or whatever? It's because quite simply they're not happy.
And if anything, sorry to butt in, but this period that we've come out of being in, COVID, some people are still in lockdown and not. It's really pointing the finger now. People are looking at, man, what does this all mean anyway?
What does it all mean? Of course, we've got the media 24/7 telling you, painting mostly a negative picture because that's how they get you to tune in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want. They want to sensationalize everything, and yes, they do play a role, but it's a lot of negative fear, and then they're trying to sell you the antidote, which is to watch Big Brother or some other junk television program, which all it does is simply take your mind off yourself for a short time.
Yeah, and then you can wake up and 15 years has passed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of us do. So to answer your question, I had like most people. I've gone through a number of what I would call personal crises, in my life, and most people probably wouldn't even know when they look at you, because we're all doing such a good job of pretending that we're okay. Like, oh, how are you? How are you, Melissa?
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Or yeah, not too bad. Or, like, we don't actually answer the question. And a lot of people ask the question and they don't even want you to answer it. It's just something that we do. And you know what? They don't want to know. Yeah. Because they wouldn't be able to handle it if you actually told them. So, we walk around, masking all this stuff. And so I had a crisis, what I would call a crisis, was actually a gift from the universe. Yeah. Seriously. And because it set me on a path to understand deeper, at a deeper level, what was happening. Because my personal growth and personal development had always been around success and material acquisition, and what other people thought of you. And thankfully, I live in a very nice home. We've got lots of good stuff, wonderful kids and wife and everything. And so it had all been okay. Well, what's your picture of a happy life, Phil? Well, you sort of get it, and then you realise, well, hang on, it's not enough. And then life sort of throws throws at you. And so I had a curveball thrown at me, which turned out, in hindsight, it was 100% a gift. 100% a gift. Now, at the time, I didn't think that. It was like my mind was stuck. I actually said I was stuck, if anybody wanted to listen to me. And not many people did. But, I was stuck. And what did that mean? It was that I had so much stuff going on in my head. I was trying to go back in the past and change history. In other words, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that? Beating myself up, and then trying to imagine what the future would be like. Well, that's insanity. Yeah. That's insanity. Yeah. But we all do it. And then I was fortunate. I was very interested, always interested in, psychology and religion and spirituality. And I was doing some online meditation stuff with Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra, not personally, but it was online. And I got into that, and I was getting benefits out of the meditation and just basically, observing thought and realizing that you're not thought. That's the big thing, is to realize that you're not your thoughts.
I think and I've sort of tried to talk to people about that sometimes, and it's like, our brain is here to protect us, but it actually is our greatest hindrance too.
Well, there's a difference between the brain and the mind.
Okay.
Right. So there's a difference between the brain and the mind. So we, unfortunately, now unless you've sort of meditated, this may not make a lot of sense. And even people who've tried meditation, I've often spoken to them and they say, "Oh, I can't meditate." Yeah. And I'm like, "Yeah, so you can't meditate." So what do you mean you can't meditate? "Oh, I just can't." And so what they actually mean is, when they actually sit down willingly, so by their own will and volition, sit down to close their eyes and just focus on their breath or focus on a mantra, which is just a word. When they actually willingly decide to do that, what they notice is a flood of unpleasant thought, right? Which is the idea of meditation, is to notice, well, what happens is when you sit down and you say, let's focus on your breath, so you focus on your breath for a short time, and then all of a sudden you're distracted by compulsive thought. This is not willed thought, this is compulsive thought. Because you've sat down and said, I'm just going to focus on my breath. But after a very short time, you don't. Because the mind is full of compulsive thought, mostly fear-based, mostly. Fear or desire-based, but mostly fear-based. And that starts to freak them out, because all of a sudden now, that's just them and these thoughts. And they're used to distracting themselves from these thoughts by doing all sorts of things, getting involved in their work.
Workaholics,
TV, sport,
eating,
drinking, pornography, whatever. Distraction. Yeah. So mostly, there's nothing wrong with any of those things in moderation, in a healthy moderation. Yeah. But mostly we overuse them because we are simply trying to distract ourselves from our thoughts. Now, go figure. That sounds ridiculous. Yeah. It sounds ridiculous. But, so that's what happened. I've tried meditation, but it meant I was just overwhelmed by these thoughts. So I had to stop and go and do something.
Because it was scary.
Because it was scary, and it's painful and it's scary. So we distract ourselves, and we've been very good at it. Yeah. So and then the big I was doing this meditation with Oprah and Deepak, and Oprah sent out an email to her probably millions of followers.
I know, because when you say that, it sounds like you and Oprah and
Yeah,
sitting around a table.
No, that's why I qualified. I did say it does sound like that. And Oprah sent out her...
One day.
Well, whatever, But, Oprah is so good at what she does. Whenever you watch her, it's like she's talking to you.
So true.
She says excellent what she does. And she sent out her top 7 spiritual books, and I bought 6 of them.
That's so awesome.
And the other one I didn't buy was a book of poetry and stuff, but I read them, and a number of them resonated with me. Well, one particularly resonated with me, and it was a book called The Untethered Soul by a guy called Michael Singer, who had been on a spiritual journey for about 40 plus years, but had also become the chairman, the CEO of a $1 billion software company.
Yeah, so I love that you make that distinction. That this isn't just for people that live in Byron Bay and want to sit on a hilltop. This is serious business people.
And that really. Not only did I love what he wrote and sort of got a bit of it, but this impressed me from that point of view. He's someone who deeply understands both worlds, and would say first and foremost he's a spiritual person that just happened to become the CEO of a. And so the first lesson was we are not our thoughts, or you are not your thoughts. We have them, but they're not who we are.
I love that.
Right? They're not who we are. And you mentioned earlier, Melissa, when you talked about freedom. And true freedom is when you really get, not hear me say it or read it in a book, is that, you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. Because most of them, the vast majority, are just freaking you out. Right? And you wouldn't will them in a million years. And you're not willing them. They are just coming up compulsively, and they're coming up as a result of past experiences.
Yep.
Right? And if you want to test this out, if you want to think, has Phil lost his marbles? I mean, I like what he said about sales and how I can make
that was
more
very
money.
helpful to my business.
Yeah, that was helpful for my business.
That was freaking me out.
How's this crap going to help me?
Yeah.
Then, if this is of some interest, then I'd say next time you're in the shower, just pay attention to what your mind does.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I have my best brain waves, and my best decision making happens in the shower.
Okay, all right. When you're sort of in a free flowing state, but if you really pay attention, a lot of the stuff is just coming all over out of left field. I mean, another example most people relate to is you get in your car and you drive to work. How many traffic lights did you go through? How many blue cars did you see? And the answer is, I haven't got a clue. And he said, why? And the simple reason is, you weren't there.
Yeah. Do you know what I've started doing actually when I drive? I've done this for the past year now. I actually drive in silence. I don't do phone calls. I don't have no radio. I have no music. I drive in silence so I can be mindful.
Okay.
So I actually
mindful.
am aware.
Okay. So you're aware of, the practice is to be mindful. And what is mindfulness? It's awareness. So it's not just awareness of what's going on around you, but it's also awareness of what is going on in your mind, what thoughts are coming up, and awareness of what emotions that you may be experiencing. And I found, at 65, and it's an absolute gift, and I try to, as I mentioned to you, I've been, for the last 3.5 years, I've been facilitating a small weekly group with people around the implementation of these ideas, because you can talk about them and you can read about them, but unless you experience the difference, it's almost like trying to explain to someone who's never swam in the water what it feels like. You can say it's great and it's wet, and they go, yeah, well, what's wet? You can't, unless you're in there, you can't really describe it. But it's a completely different state of being when you can learn that, I think it was this psychiatrist, Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Mad Search for Meaning. He was a psychiatrist who actually happened to be in a concentration camp during the Second World War, and he saw all these terrible things and everything. And he came up with a number of conclusions. He was a psychiatrist, but he said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is where God resides.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. Because, and this becomes really deep because, as we talked a little bit earlier, Melissa, where did it all come from? It came from this explosion 13.8 billion years ago there was just hydrogen and helium gas for millions of years. It was so thick, light couldn't penetrate it. And from all that, we have the planets spinning in their orbit. We have the Earth positioned where it is. Mars, all the other planets in our solar system have 0 on them. We would hate being there. We're on this planet that has just got, wow.
Yeah, just fluked it.
We fluked it, right? But it is that. But we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Here we are. We had nothing to do with it. We have billions of cells in our bodies, if not all, mostly all doing a wonderful job of what they're supposed to be doing. There's a incredible intelligence behind it all. We have nothing to do with it, yet we are working like mad using that to try to figure everything out and try to control life. And then the bottom line is you have virtually 0 to do with being here.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of deep stuff, which is not meant to freak you out and, and say, go and sit on a mountain and contemplate it. The bottom line, what does it really mean? It means that you have everything you need right now to be perfectly happy. And the thing that is robbing us of being happy is mostly it's thought and emotion.
Yeah.
Which emotion is actually just stored energy. And it's from the past, and it's from past things that we couldn't handle. So we stored the energy.
Trauma.
It's trauma. We call it trauma. We give it a label. People say, I'm anxious, I'm worried. And it's just a name we give to this feeling. It's just a feeling. It's a name. And I'm not trying to discount anybody's situation. And yes,
that's right.
in a human sense, the trials and tribulations and challenges that we all have. I'm not trying to discount that one little bit. But there's a peace that we can attain that well, I think it says in the Bible. I'm not a religious person, but the peace beyond all understanding. And it's actually available in us if we are able to access that space that Viktor Frankl talks about between stimulus and response. That is, most of us are just responsive mechanisms.
Yeah.
You get angry at me, I get angry at you.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't stop. Someone drives too slowly in front of me, I get angry. Right? And that's just an old emotion that's coming up, and I lost complete awareness.
I was going to say, it's not even mindfulness, it's just a memory of
it's got nothing to do with mindfulness. Mindfulness is in that situation. I'm noticing that just because someone is driving slower than I would like them to drive, I'm getting this very uncomfortable feeling.
Yes.
And now I'm having these thoughts of, like, what, I need to be here, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. That is mindfulness, is being aware of what's happening for you.
Yeah, taking note of the change.
Of being aware.
Yeah.
And what you find is, if you just stay aware, and it's not easy, it is a practice. If you want to be a good piano player, you've got to sit down and play your scales.
Yeah.
You're talking about singing, and we both have singing lessons.
Yeah.
You want to be really good at it, you've got to do the work.
Yeah, anything.
Athletic. Whatever it is, but we all get that. If you want to be a great soccer player or be successful in business, you've got to do stuff. You've got to be really good at what you do. You've got to work hard. You've got to practice. You've got to all that sort of stuff. So mindfulness is the same thing. It's no different because it's hard. Because what is happening is you have this. So let's use the car thing for example. All of a sudden, you're just happily sitting on this planet. Be in a vehicle going somewhere, and now we say your stuff has been hit.
Yeah.
And it's all this stuff. Some people will even get out of the car or ram the other, in extreme circumstances. Now that is a complete loss of consciousness.
Yes.
Not only is it not socially acceptable, but you are completely robbing yourself of happiness.
So people tend to be then, I guess, living so reactively and so just caught up in their past and their past stories and their past experiences that they don't even realise how much they're living in the present.
Well, the problem is we don't live in the present. So if we want to sum it all up, yes, by all means, run your business, have a family. But the problem is we're not living in the present.
Yeah.
And neuroscientists will tell you this, the guys that study thought and study the brain. So not necessarily spiritual people, scientific people, depending on who you believe, and they've done experiments, we have between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So let's take an average, between 12,000 and 60,000. So let's take an average, let's say 30,000.
Yeah.
30,000 thoughts a day. They will tell you that at least 90% of the same thoughts you had yesterday, and at least 90% are negative.
Yeah. Wow.
And that is the truth.
Yeah.
So while all this thought is going, so 30,000 thoughts a day, let's say 24,000 because it's easy to work with.
Yeah.
So that's 1,000 thoughts an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Divide whatever it is. So we have this jumble of stuff going on in here.
Yeah.
That some of it, a lot of it's just going, it's just doing, some of it's freaking us out. And the bottom line is, and this is going to sound really weird, and I'll say it because it's the truth. We've given the mind a job to do that it's not capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we want the mind to go and figure out what should have happened in the past. Cost-benefit analysis of trying to change the past. Zero benefit, 100% cost.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So why is the mind even doing that?
Yeah.
And of course, we're trying to imagine the future. Now, there are so many factors that we are not even aware of. It's in the trillions. And here we are trying to go, when this happens, and I'll be happy. And then it's any wonder when, if we actually do make it happen, because we've just focused everything on that and forgotten about the moment, and forgotten about the fact that we're just lucky to be here and da-da-da-da, then you go, okay, I've got that now. After a bit of, 5 minutes of celebration and a few people patting you on the back.
Are you fulfilled? Are you happy?
What do I do next?
Yeah, great call. Great call.
So, if any of this interests anyone, it's a very, very deep subject. It's very, very deep. But I would say, but the thing, don't stop your business, of course. Don't stop looking after your family. Don't stop living your life. But I would just say, if you're looking for more, and if you're, one of those people that's, gone through life and you're going, geez, I wonder what it's all about. Then maybe, some of this stuff you might want to investigate, because essentially, if you know what it's about, this is the other thing. Why am I here? I've got two daughters, one's 30, one's 27, and I talk to them about this stuff, and they're partly interested and partly not interested because, they're living their lives. And good on them. I say maybe one day you will. Actually, I said to my 27-year-old the other day, she was trying to, she thinks I'm a bit casual about COVID.
Yeah.
She said, Dad, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that. And I said, Dad, look, when my time's up, my time's up. I said, you don't really need me anymore anyway. I've pretty much told you everything you need to know that I can tell you. Bar one thing, and you know what it is, but when I'm dead, just go to my bookshelf, because those books there know more than I do anyway. So just go to those. But so the reason that we're here, and we're all sort of often struggling, why am I here? What's my purpose? You've got children and I've got children. Is your purpose to have children?
Well, once upon a time I thought so.
Yeah, that's same here.
Yeah, but
same here. No, it's not. It's not.
Once they grow up,
they're not yours. They're not yours.
100%.
You had you're an ingredient in the cake. Right? One ingredient. I used to think the same thing. I'm here to procreate, have kids.
Yeah,
that's what I used to think.
True.
I don't think that anymore.
Same.
The true purpose, our true purpose here is to experience life unfolding. That's our true purpose. Our true purpose is to experience and learn from the moment.
I was just going to say, and do you believe take the learning?
Is to experience and learn and grow from the moment. And I guess, and to learn what, is our true purpose for being here is to raise the moment. Right? In other words, is because life is it's hard not to, but the only thing that's real is the moment.
Yeah.
And at this moment, right now is the only thing that's real. And this moment right now there are all these other moments all over the place. There are moments on Mars, there are moments on Venus, but this moment's right now is a result of all the preceding moments and events that have taken place in the last 13.8 billion years.
Yeah. That
have led right now for Melissa and I to be in this moment.
To this momentous moment.
So it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. But because we're so caught up in wanting and needing and put out what spiritual people refer to as our personal self. And of course the mind, and we've just spoken about that, how we use the mind in that regard, that we miss the moment.
God, so many people are missing the moment. I so get it.
And I've missed many, many moments, and sometimes I still do. And so the practice, in a nutshell, and we've only had a 20 or 30-minute conversation, which has been great, the practice is to be aware, mindful of what's going on here, how you're feeling emotionally, what's going on out inside, and to just stay aware. And by just being of that, what's called conscious awareness. So what is conscious awareness? So if, Phil, you've been banging on about all these compulsive thoughts that we have between 12 and 60,000, and these emotions we have. So if we're not our thoughts, if we have these thoughts are just compulsive and we're not willing them, and we have these emotions that just arise, like when we're driving and someone gets slow in front of us and we feel all this. So if we're not our thoughts, then who are we? Right? So if we're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions. So who am I?
Yeah.
Am I Phil, 65 years of age, married with two? No, I have, part of my life situation is my chronological age. I've been on this planet for 65 years. I've been married for over 30 years and I have two daughters. But is that who I am? Am I a sales coach, trainer? Is that who I am?
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living.
Right.
So, and these have become the really deep, essential questions that, for thousands of years people have sought to answer. So essentially, well, if I'm not all those things, who am I? And the essential answer is when you practice mindfulness. So mindfulness is just awareness. I'm mindful, I'm aware. Okay. It's essentially becoming aware of what is going on in your mind, your thoughts, and your feelings. And when you do that enough...
So not actually being triggered by them, being aware of them.
Noticing them. So maybe another word that people can grasp onto it is noticing them. Because let's take that road rage incident. You either got two choices. You can respond or react, which a lot of us do, the finger up in the air and the shouting and the beating of the horn. You can do that. Or you can choose to notice your reaction.
Yeah.
Only your reaction. So you can choose to go, and this is not easy. It's not an easy practice because there's all this energy wanting to express itself. You can choose to instead, the part of you that is capable of noticing that you're having a change. It's fundamentally just a change in energy. That you're noticing that you're having a change. There's this energetic change.
Yeah.
And it means, and then you notice that the mind is wanting to do all these things and it's coming up with all these thoughts, but instead of reacting, stimulus response, which is what lab rats do, you notice. So there's a part of you which is conscious awareness. That's actually our true nature. Yeah. And that's the only thing that's consistent from the day we're born till the day we die. We are aware. We have an awareness. Unfortunately, we don't use it because we get overwhelmed by stuff outside. We get overwhelmed by these 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. And we get overwhelmed by our emotional reactions, which are just conditioned from the past. So if you learn instead, like using the road rage, and this happens to me, because I happen to have a thing about courtesy, which has a lot to do with the way I was brought up.
I was just going to say, there's the story straight away.
Okay, so so I talked before about raising the moment. So I choose to let people in. So if somebody's coming down the hill to Norris Street, 9 out of 10 times I will stop. Yeah. And I let them in. And, I used to get really bothered. I used to watch to see whether they said thank you. Right? And at least half the time they don't. Yeah. And it's not because, they're trying to make Phil unhappy or they're stuck. They are so distracted by their own thought processes. Yeah. They're not, it's what I talked about before. How many traffic lights did you go through? I don't know. Yeah. They're not even aware that you've stopped for them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And now they're thinking about, I've got to pick up the kids from school. I've got to pay the mortgage, this, that, blah, blah. My husband didn't rush. They're not even thinking about it. And here I am getting worked up because, at least half of them haven't said thank you. So what that actually means to me is I'm actually suffering. Yeah. I'm actually suffering, wanting this to be different than the way it is. I'm suffering. Yeah. So my practice just regards that, and it still happens, So I'm working on it. It's less. I now get to a point where I'm not even looking. I don't even care if you say thank you or not. All I want to do is notice the stuff that's coming up, notice the thoughts, and allow them to pass.
Yeah.
And so by noticing, what you will find, by accessing that part of you, it's called conscious awareness. It's a name, but it's that part of you that is actually capable of just watching, of noticing your thoughts, not buying into them, not reacting to them, noticing your emotions. And if you do that, you will find they will pass, because it's just energy. It will pass. And when it passes, you are left in the most, sublime state.
So this is what I wanted to get to, is why do we sort of take this awareness, and why do we want to quieten? Is it quieten the mind?
It's not quieten the mind.
Okay,
It's let go. It's actually let go. It's not buy into. It's not what we do is we have these thoughts and we identify with them. Oh, Melissa shouldn't have said that to me. I don't know why she said that to me. I've been so nice to her, and blah, 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 blah. And next time I see her, and like, truth being, you don't even know you said it, or maybe you did say it maliciously, but you wouldn't. But the chances are it was just something. But what it's done is it's come in. What happens is the event comes in and it hits our stuff. Like, why would I want to kill somebody who's driving 10K below the speed limit in front of me?
That's right.
Why would I want to kill them? Yeah. Or why would I want to damage their car? Or why would I want to get myself upset? Yeah. It could only be that particular event at that time has come in and it's hit my stuff. It's regurgitated all this past stuff I had around whatever it might be. And it's unconscious.
Yeah.
It's unconscious, because you wouldn't behave like that. You would tell your kids, I tell my oldest daughter, who's quite reactive, just calm down.
Yeah.
You don't have to hit your horn, just relax. Why are you getting yourself worked up?
And so that's where the joy comes from, I guess, is being unattached to
the joy, it's very, very deep, because this is where it becomes spiritual. We all actually have access to this state of energy, high energetic state, which people would call spiritual and some people call spiritual energy. But we're blocking it by identification with personal thought and personal emotion. We're actually blocking it. So, if you go to the East, they talk about the third eye.
Yeah.
They talk about this energy coming up to between your forehead. And that's why they sit and they meditate for hours and hours and hours. Well, you don't have to do all that. But what we do is, by constant focus and identification with thought, most of which is negative, and most of which is all about you. So I actually, so if you're getting spiritual for a side, I've actually seen, a guy who's a PhD, a guy called, I'm just trying to think of Gary Weber, who's a PhD in some material science or something. Also, anyway, an academic who got very into this stuff, was very, very, was suffering big time in his teens, I think, or his 20s, and wanted to try and figure this stuff out, and did a lot of work. And I've actually seen him do a lecture where he asks people, just for a minute, I just want you to take note of your thoughts. So just sit down there and think for a moment, whatever you would think, take note of them, and da-da-da. And the conclusion he comes to, which is absolutely correct, is all of your thoughts were either I, me, mine. Yeah. It's all about you. I, me, mine. Yeah. And they're all either past or future-based.
Yeah, wow.
And that is a fact. Now, some people will go, I don't know what this guy's talking about. I'm just going to hit the stop button right now. This is madness.
Well, they would have hit it ages ago.
Yeah, they would have hit it ages ago. But some of you are going to get this. And the bottom line is, the big scam that they've never taught us in the Western world, they've taught us all about to think about ourselves.
Yeah.
And get stuff and be stuff and do stuff. And that's all really good. I'm not discounting that at all. That is good stuff. But, what's really causing us suffering is this constant focus on ourselves.
Yeah. And it almost becomes impossible to be.
Well, you just can't be. That's the whole idea. That is not being. So, being in essence is just being. It's like you're just being. You might have thought going, because we're humans and we've been conditioned a certain way, but it's not distracting you. Yeah. It's just there. And I've just noticed from my own practice, which is now nearly 4 years as I said, I've been facilitating a small group around this weekly for over 3.5, is you notice the thoughts are still there, but they're just not screaming at you.
Yeah.
So when your thoughts aren't screaming at you, and it's like watching the television, we could turn on the TV, we could get the best scary movie possible, and with the music and the acting and the script and everything, and after like 10 minutes, you and I would be sitting here white knuckled, sweating, like
hating it.
Hating it, but like so totally in it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I could turn on all the lights and turn down the music, or turn the music off, and you'd be watching the same thing. But it's like
not as impacted.
Well, this is not as impacted. This is not. That's not scary. That looks ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so we created our own scary movie, which is the mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And mostly, and the mind is good for a lot of good things. There's an old saying that the mind is a terrific servant, but a terrible master. Right, and unfortunately, it's we just spilled something on the floor, and I've had experience with doing that because my wife gets really angry. So it's a really good servant. Like I now remember how to put the thing on, so that hopefully won't stay. But it's a terrible master because now I'm going to be thinking probably, or I could, what's she going to say when she comes home? I hope to, and now I'm just creating my own scary movie.
Yeah.
The stain will either come out at once, she'll either come home, whatever. But in the meantime, that's what we do. And with this constant focus and attention and identification, because they want to make the movie so you think you're actually in the movie.
Yeah.
So you're not, I'm Melissa sitting here watching this scary movie.
Yeah.
You're in that scary movie, and the more they can do that, the more tickets they will sell.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because that's the experience we go to. Because we know when we leave and the lights come up, we go, boy, my life ain't that bad. Here I am. And so, but we do that ourselves.
Yeah.
We do that ourselves by identifying with this mostly negative past or future-based thought, and by these emotions that we have that we label fear, anxiety, rejection.
Yeah, all the stories.
Because the mind makes a story around the emotion based on past experiences. So yes, if you ask the girl to dance, or if you ask the boy to dance, and you really like someone, and then, when you were 15 and you end up going with someone else, how that felt.
Yeah.
We hang on to that.
Yeah.
So we hang on to that feeling, right? We hang on to that feeling. So much so that, let's say that happened at 15, you could be 50 and you could walk into a room and you could see someone standing over there that reminded you, like they might have their back to you, and you go, that's John.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, you will start to feel
15-year-old girl.
You are back to being, because what happens is that will trigger that event. You seeing the back of the Black John will trigger that energy.
Yeah.
What we call an emotion.
Yeah.
Will trigger, and then the mind will go, shit, that's John. I hope he doesn't see me. Now maybe you've grown out of it, but a lot of the time we don't.
Yeah, if you're living unconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. Now, chances are the person will turn around and it's not John. And when it's not John, great, it's not John.
Yeah.
Forget it. So we're constantly living like that, being triggered, living basically unconsciously. We're living unconsciously, and what that simply means is not being aware of these thoughts, compulsive, negative thoughts, and these emotions, not being aware of them. So in that situation with John, or the same as I use in the car, that's actually a gift, because it actually says, Melissa, there's some stuff there that you need to let go of.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you're only going to let go of it by being aware, by watching it.
Yeah.
No, you can't change it. You can take a pill. You can go to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
You can go and talk about it, and they can but you need to get rid of that energy, and the only way to get rid of it, allow it to pass, is just to allow it to be. Is actually accept it. So we're either accepting or resisting. So when you get road rage is resistance to this energetic change, and then the mind's going to go bang, 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 bang. It's going to come up with all its stuff. But if you accept the feeling, because it is just a feeling, if you accept it, I accept that I'm having this feeling, that feeling will pass. And the more you do that, the less you will have that feeling and the less it will be triggered.
Yeah.
And that is freedom.
Oh, I love that. How you summarise it, that's freedom. So for somebody who's kind of like still with us,
I don't think anybody's with us at this
they
point.
are. Because there's a niggle, I reckon, in some people. I had it. Well, I have it. But, there's a niggle and you want to know, well, what's for? You get to a middle of your age.
Yeah.
For me, it's my kids are getting older. I'm approaching 50.
Yeah.
Things didn't turn out kind of like how I thought they were going to turn out in situations. And chasing joy, always chasing joy.
Sure.
So well, how do I get there without not chasing? And I knew I wanted to do it in a spiritual way, not in an alcoholic buying stuff.
Well, that's what we do.
Consumer way, the Western way. And I'm always been interested in Eastern ways and been meditating. So, just a couple of quick things that people can do to kind of explore what this could mean for them and how they can get further.
And look, you've just hit the nail on the head. Is essentially we want to be happy.
That's all we want.
Essentially, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we think happiness resides in outside of us. Stuff.
Yeah.
We think happiness resides outside of us.
Yeah.
And that is, you get the new car and, it's great until it gets scratched. Or
somebody gets a newer one.
Or somebody gets a new one, and 6 months later there's a new one and they put up next to you and I go, oh God, why didn't I wait for that? Look at that's got what I... So once again, we're entering the suffering game. And so, all we want is really to be happy, but happiness, so how do you find happiness? You find happiness is inside. It's an internal experience. And so what happens, and they don't teach us this in the West, but it's very prevalent in the East.
Yeah.
People sat down and if you noticed in the East, there's a lot of very spiritual people, but they don't have a lot materially.
That was what blew me away from my travels in Southeast Asia.
So
the genuine joy of people.
Yeah, the genuine happiness.
Who live like...
Yeah, they have nothing.
I perceive
No, they don't. They have not, well...
Materialistically,
materially,
they had so much more.
And that's because joy and happiness are internal experiences. They're not external experiences. And we in the West, it's actually, you can trace it back to the Western world, to the Greeks, because the Greeks wanted to try and understand the world. So they became specialists in geology, in astronomy, in politics, in economics, in building. So they became specialists in the outside world. And so subsequently, thousands of years later, we have this incredible understanding of the outside world. But that's where our focus has been. But we didn't put a lot of effort into understanding the inside world. The particularly in India, most of the focus was in understanding the inside world, but they live in poverty. But they don't live in spiritual poverty. Wow. And that's the difference. They went deep inside, Buddha and people like that. And so it all starts with, for me, and I'll just tell you, so the big cognition for me was, I have thoughts and feelings, but they are not who I am.
Yeah.
I have them, but they are not who I am.
Yeah.
And so we are actually slave to our thoughts and feelings. So we talked about freedom a little bit earlier. So true freedom is freedom from yourself.
I know people's heads are going.
Yeah, I know, because people think, well, no, if I could just go to Hawaii or I could just travel here.
And you know what happens? I'm free.
Yeah, if I don't have to work, I'm free. If I had this amount of money, I'll be free. No, you won't. You won't be. Believe me.
You'll be stuck with yourself.
I know people that have, believe me, you're right. You're stuck with you. Remember, going back, the vast majority of your thoughts, regardless of how much money you have, are me, I, and mine. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And those thoughts are mostly past or future based. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It is not dependent on your bank balance. Believe me, I know this for a fact. Right? I know this for a fact. And so we just want to be happy. But there's an old sort of a Buddhist story, I think it's a Buddhist story. And something like this. There's a beggar sitting on a box. As people walk by with his hand out asking for money, and occasionally gets money, and someone stops and says, have you ever looked inside, picked up the box you're sitting on? Have you ever looked inside? No, I haven't. Well, why don't you try? Wow. Picks up the box and there's piles of gold. The moral of the story is you have everything you need inside. Your happiness is an internal experience. It's not an external experience. We occasionally get it when things happen. You know, you get something or you win something, and we're joyous for a while, and so we think, shit, that's the answer to happiness. So we try to recreate that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. You have to do more. That's why rich people are rich. They have to get richer and richer and richer and richer and feel the same thing. And then eventually there's a law in economics called the law of diminishing returns. The more of anything you have, the less out of it you get. So in other words, if your favourite food is chocolate cake, if I gave you all the chocolate, here's 10 chocolate cakes, you would stop eating chocolate cake. Because it doesn't do it for you anymore.
Yeah.
So the answer, it's internal. It's an internal experience, and it's attained over time. So some people get it when they have a catastrophe in their life. You know, I mean, Jesus said you had to die to be reborn, and it's really, I don't want to. People have their religious beliefs, and that's fine. But in another sense, it's what has to die, and it's your ego. Your ego, this sense of me, personal sense of self, this all me, mine, house, and so some people have catastrophic things happen, and they all of a sudden wake up and life is completely different. Eckhart Tolle, probably one of the best known spiritual teachers and authors today, had that experience, and it was just he was miserable, and he had an experience where I believe he said, "I want to kill myself," and then he sort of. Well, hang on, I want to kill myself. Which one am I? And that was the beginning of the shattering of his ego, the illusion that he was this thought.
Yeah.
Wow. No, really. And he's become one of the most famous spiritual teachers. Yeah. And so some people have that sort of experience, or unfortunately they might take a drastic action. But it's so to access this happiness, which is really spiritual energy. So what they have in the East is a spiritual energy and an identification with it. So to access it, it's this being aware of the thoughts and being aware of the emotions. And it's a practice. It's a practice. So meditation is a practice.
Yeah. So that's what I asked originally was some things that people can do immediately.
Well, okay. So meditation is a great practice. So meditation, if you sit down and do 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it is great because it's just an awareness practice. But it's what you do throughout the day. Yeah. So it's not as good a thing as meditation is. When you get up, that's when your meditation starts. And that is being mindful. That's just because of that thing, that example of when you thought you saw your old boyfriend and it wasn't even him. That's when you need to be aware. That's actually a gift saying you've got stuff. If you want to be happy, you need to let go of that stuff. Yeah. Because that stuff is stopping you being happy or feeling, experiencing. And it's higher than happiness, it's joy. Yeah. It's the joy of actually being. Now, you can't tell many people that because I've had these conversations with a few people and I try not to go, because I'm not a guru, but I try because most people aren't ready for it and they but that's okay. And I wasn't ready for it either, probably 4 or 5 years ago. But it's really, it's just, that's just why some people are just have nothing, but they're just in a state of joy. And yes, you can say, it's appreciation and gratitude, but it's higher than that.
Yeah, they're stepping stones too.
They're stepping stones. Yeah. The real bottom line is we are all connected. Everything is connected. We are just part of this glorious whole. Yeah. And we are connected. And the nature of the universe, we talk about it in religion in terms that people can understand, but the nature of the universe is love. Yeah. What a perfect way to end. And we can access that, but as I say, we can only do that by letting go of the personal self. The personal self. Yeah. To find out who you really are, which is the connection to what we just spoke about.
So books to read, what do you recommend?
Well, I would recommend, in terms of my personal teachers, there's a guy, Michael Singer, who's written a book, The Untethered Soul.
Can I just say, I found that really hard to read.
Yeah, I found it really hard to read too, until you have to be ready. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be smart or you just need to be ready.
I enjoy.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying that is the book's awesome, but it's hard yakka.
Yeah.
So I just listen to him a lot on YouTube.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay. And the great interview that Oprah did. Oprah got the book.
I saw
When this is
Magic.
unbelievable. She rang him up. The guy who lives in the woods. He doesn't really want to. He doesn't need the money, and he just doesn't want to be a. He's not looking for fame and fortune.
Yeah.
And he actually, the only television interview he ever did. And it's a great interview. It's only about 30 minutes. You can find it on YouTube. But what I did, and there's Eckhart Tolle, there's Krishnamurti, there's Ram Dass, who's no longer with us. There's a number on Rupert Spira. You'll find these people on YouTube. But essentially, when I read The Untethered Soul, I sort of got it. I tried to read. I read The Power of Now and New Earth, which are Eckhart Tolle's books. Oprah, by the way, sleeps with New Earth on her bedside.
I didn't know where you were going with that. When you said Oprah sleeps with.
Yeah, that book. But this stuff's really deep, and it's not what we're used to. They're not novels, Anyway, so bottom line is what happened was I was in a really quote unquote low place, struggling personally. And when I say that, I now know what it was. It's just my mind was like toing and frying backwards and forwarding. You can't sleep at night. It's going 24/7. It's trying to figure out the unfigureoutable. That's the problem. Like if you gave yourself, if you said physically your job is to uproot trees, you wouldn't. Not only wouldn't you be able to do it, but you'd probably half kill yourself in the process. Well, we've given the mind the job of trying to figure out life.
Yeah.
And life is just happening. It's the result of what's been happening for the last 13.8 billion years. So fundamentally, I read The Untethered Soul. I had read Eckhart, and there was a chapter called Unconditional Happiness. And he basically says, what do you really want? You want to be happy. You can have it any time you like. You can, regardless of what is happening in your life, regardless. And I said to myself, I want that. Right? I said, I want that. And I checked him out because I'm not a gullible person. And I thoroughly checked him out and and I came to the conclusion, this is someone I want to learn from. So I said to myself, I won't be able to do this myself because this is hard. Yeah. This awareness thing, it's so easy to not do it, like dieting. You do it for a few days and then
I understand.
I mean, my life's been, a bit like that with dieting and stuff, So I said, I won't be able to do this by myself. Because of my background with coaching and training, I'm going to do remember you were in that group there? Yeah. I'm going to see if there, I'm going to, a few people I'd recommended the book to, a couple said, I said, look, this is the idea, is to try to practice this stuff, not just talk about it, and so I had a few people, they lasted about a year. Anyway, we've been going about 3.5 years. They dropped out. There's 5 of us now. There's even one person in the United States that I never even knew. I only met about 3 months ago. There's other people that have just joined, and that and the idea is that we're working towards personal freedom consciously, and we're working on it. So it becomes, Michael Singer says, now this is really profound. This is I follow this philosophy as best as I can, and I'm still a work in progress. He says the purpose of your life is not to get what you want.
That's why I'm pausing, because I'm trying to get that one.
So we think the purpose of our life. If I said to you, "What's the purpose of life?" You even said to me, "I want to travel more. I want to do this. I want to do that."
I'm very intentional around what I want.
Yeah. You were very intentional about it, as are most of us. Yeah. So we go to the mind.
Yeah.
And the mind says, if you travel more, and if you did that, and if you did that, your life would be fine. And that's what we believe. At 65, I can tell you I've lived my life like that. Yeah. I'm very thankful and very grateful, but it's not the answer. It's not the full answer.
Yeah, no.
Because there's always something
more.
Yeah. When you get there, where do I go now? I'm sick of that now. I've done that too. I don't want to travel anymore, or I want to do something else. So he says, and this is very counterintuitive for most of us, the way we're taught and the way we're brought up and the way we think. But he says, the purpose of your life is not to get what you want, is to let go of your stuff.
That's
right?
Awesome.
And that's pretty much how I try. It's not easy,
but
that's pretty much how I try to live my life. So these opportunities you know, the road, the car, the person that, all these opportunities that trigger us they're actually gifts from the universe saying, you really truly want to be happy, let go of what's stopping you being happy right now.
I love that.
So it's
You
really,
get that.
I know you get it. Otherwise we wouldn't have been talking this long.
That's true. Yeah.
Just you and I here, no one else is there.
Yeah.
But let go. So if you're truly, what you truly want is to be happy. And the way to be happy is to let go of the part of you that is stopping you being happy now.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
It's not some future destination.
Yeah, when I buy this.
When I change my work from doing less of this to doing more of that.
Yeah.
We think that.
Yeah. And all those things are nice.
They're nice. When you work towards it, it sort of happens. It's cool for a while and you think, wow, this is the answer, until about 6 months later. It's like, you know, people get married. They get married because they think the person they're marrying is the answer to their happiness.
Yeah.
Well, what happens?
Yeah. They change. Something changes.
Well, it's not. It's at least 50% get divorced.
Yeah,
it's not. No one else is responsible for your happiness.
Yeah.
But we fall in love. We get this sense of romance and whatever, and it's wonderful, and we think we want this to last forever. But you can't. It's not. It's never going to last forever if you're expecting it to come from someone else.
You're basing your happiness on them.
That's right. So it's an internal thing. And you've also all tried, you know, you've had your kids and you've done this and you've done that, and you've also had some challenges in your life. Most of us have. And even, you know, when you say, no, I thought my kids were the purpose of my life, but now I know they're not. I adore them, but they're not the purpose of my life.
They're about to move out. They're doing their own thing.
And they will.
They should.
They should.
Yeah.
Right? So they're not the purpose of your life. You had a small hand into, you know, you were part of the mix.
Yeah.
But, you know, and so we find these things out. So true happiness, it resides within. It's an energetic state of being. It's an energetic state of being, and it can only be realized and experienced when you let go of the personal self. Because the personal self is actually robbing us of that state of experience of being happy, joy, feeling, experiencing love for no reason. That's the essence.
That's awesome. I think we'll finish there. Okay. Because it's profound and it's cool, and I think it's going to take a bit for people to absorb that. You know, if this is brand new to you, like check out. I'll put in the show notes actually some links of what you spoke about, and you can do some research. Check it out. Reach out to Phil if you want to have a chat, even if you want to read the book and then maybe want to join the group and keep the conversation going, because there's not a lot of people in your life that you can maybe have these conversations with.
Yeah, they're not. And I'm not, you know, if people want to talk to me, I'm happy because it's my passion, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this isn't your business. This is just your...
No, I have a business. I have a commercial business, training and coaching, and, you know, with sales and business people. But this is my passion. And, you know, Michael Singer, as I said, he saw a little... In the 70s, saw what was to become the personal computer. He was an analytical guy. He was doing a PhD in economics, and he thought, oh, that's interesting. And he bought one and took it home, and he taught himself how to program. And then someone asked him in the little town that he was, because he wanted to. This is interesting. Yeah. Said, could you? A doctor. There's a few people found out he could program. He must have done a few things. And a doctor said, could you write me a program for my practice, medical billing? And Michael Singer said, oh, well, I'll try. I'll do it. Yeah. Well, that from that beginning turned into $1 billion software company. that piece of software in one form or another was used by 25% of physicians in the United States at one time. But if you say to Michael Singer, geez, you're a genius for doing that. He said, I didn't do anything. I wasn't thinking about writing a software program for doctors. Someone asked me to.
Yeah, wow. How humble.
Well, not only humble, but he recognized that was the universe. He didn't set out to do that. He didn't set out to build $1 billion company. He set out, you know, and he's first and foremost a spiritual person, was just to serve the moment. Serve the moment. So, you know, he did it. One thing turned to another. He did the best that he could, tried to raise the moment at the same time, letting go. If you read the Surrender Experiment, that's really like,
is that his as well? Or
he wrote. So the surrender. So basically, he decided in his 20s, that he was going to let life decide the course of his life, not him.
Far out. You can do that in your 20s.
Well, he still does it to this day.
But then I was going to finish the sentence with, and that's what we need to learn how to do.
Yeah, so surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means just acknowledging, if you get some of this stuff, it's just acknowledging that life is far more intelligent than you or I. And there's an intelligence there's an intelligence and a reason and a structure behind it. And and here we are trying to figure everything out
and control
everything according to our own fears and desires, which is cutting us off. Which is cutting us off from the universe. So there's no guarantee you're going to get $1 billion software company, whatever. But if you truly want to be happy, if you truly want to be, which is really, if someone says,
which is the ultimate goal,
I want to be happy now. Not contingent on me being there.
Not when
I, or someone saying good on you, Phil, or when this happens or that doesn't happen. It's just about being happy now. And that's essentially, what most of this stuff is about. It's about, there is only one thing, it's now. It's the only thing there is. You are part of it. Just allow yourself to feel a part of it and allow yourself to feel the joy and the expression of love and joy that essentially is what the universe is about.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you guys enjoyed that, just as I said before, I'll put everything in the show notes. Do some research, check it out yourself. Send us some feedback. If you want to see more topics like this, actually, I'd love that kind of feedback too, because I just feel like that's what we're all here for, is to live a better life and do it a better way.
Well, essentially, it's not for everybody, but if any of this stuff resonates, then, I can only talk about my experience. I wouldn't have been ready for this 10 years ago.
And some people are doing this in their 20s and their teens. So it's when it's right for you.
And the great thing is we live in an information age. So it's good and bad. We've got all access to this stuff, but you couldn't, 30, 40 years ago, all this stuff is on YouTube.
I know. It's so accessible.
Right? It's accessible for free.
It is. It's a gift. It's an utter gift.
Absolute gift.
And yet people are more miserable than ever.
People are more, but that's the dichotomy. People are miserable. Generally they are. They won't own up to it unless, they feel comfortable. But
you don't have to scratch too many surfaces.
No, and because the bottom line is, it's all me, my mind. It's all me, my I. It's all me. And of course, life is unfolding it's the way it's supposed to. It cannot unfold any other way. It's the result of cause and effect from over the last 13.8 billion years. This moment is the result of countless trillions of things that have had to happen for you and I to be sitting here right now. Yet we think we made it happen because we had a phone call and we sent an email. 100%. But, really, there's a...
And in that same token, sorry to cut you off, but you watching this and staying with us till
yes,
that's something too. That's to be said too.
That is to be said too. So I had, interestingly enough, I had accidentally taped that interview that Oprah did with Michael Singer. I'd read the book, it resonated, although I didn't really get it. And then I saw the interview, but I'd accidentally taped it. And one day I was just about to erase a lot of stuff. And I saw, it was in the room up there, I thought, oh, what's this? Oh, this is that Michael Singer guy that's written that book. And I watched it and it blew me away. But I had accidentally taped that. And you might accidentally be still here.
I hope so. Thank you, Phil. I really am going to wrap it up now.
Pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome.
Pleasure.
And thank you for tuning in to Connected with Melissa J. Scott, and I'll see you on the next episode.